疼。
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another instalment of the Middle of the Pack Racing League Radical Eurotrip Championship for 2023, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. And we are here today for the one and only Circuit de 24 du Mans, and that means it is round 8 of 12 in the championship as our drivers take to the infamous French circuit for the conclusion of the Central Cup. Spanning the best part of over 8 miles in length, this is a circuit that arguably needs no introduction, given the fact it has been a staple of motorsport in history and having recently celebrated as this year the centenary or the 100th edition of what has been the 24-hour Le Mans race, and dating all the way back to 1923 with its inaugural round. It is a circuit which continues to deliver when it comes to drama, highs and lows in the battling of racing champions, high and low throughout their relative disciplines, and today of course is no exception. My drivers go racing here on the simulator for the simple reason the fact we have Central Cup champions to crown, but on top of that as well, this could be a turning point on our overall drivers and teams championships, with the fact we've got a mid-season break coming up after this, and then we will be returning for the Southern Cup for the final 4 rounds of the season in 2 weeks time. But as we welcome you all to this post-round broadcast, bringing you all the racing actions if it were live, with that racing action having taken place as of Wednesday the 1st November 2023, but today of course is Monday the 6th of November, and we're bringing it to you as if it were live, so no spoilers whatsoever in our minds here in the quarantine booth, and we do ask that you guys and girls tune in at home, avoid any potential spoilers in the chat if you do know what happened. Now, speaking of the chats, indeed the live stream, we welcome you all to this live stream, which is available via 2 media platforms for your viewing pleasure. Firstly on Twitch at twitch.tv/TX141, alternatively on YouTube at youtube.com and search for TX141TX, alternatively Paul Walsh, and we say hello to Mary Bennett there in the Twitch chat. And well, who is Paul Walsh or who is TX141, I hear you ask? Well, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain's Bit, depending on what media you follow me on. Now we bring you all of your racing action today. And speaking of our schedule for today, we can see their times in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, Universal Coordinated Time at UTC. In just under 12 minutes time, we'll be going straight to the grid because this is a feature race round and therefore there's no qualifying. We'll take you exactly through all the particulars of how the grid will be set very shortly. But it's a wonderful day here today in France and we're all set and ready to go, and let's dive into our schedule because as we can see, we come to the conclusion of the Central Cup today, but we went all the way back on the 6th of September where we began the story with the Northern Cup, with rounds 1 and 2 being a Belgian doubleheader, starting off at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit in Belgium and then making our way to the lesser known, perhaps everybody's second favourite Belgian circuit, as is its nickname, Circuit Zolder, in round number 2. And that was on the 13th of September, and then on round number 3 we made our way to United Kingdom for what was meant to be a British doubleheader, starting with the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit on the 20th of September, and what a round of racing that was, no doubt about it. It's in the tempo step up from our first 2 rounds, even though that's not to understate how impressive the first 2 rounds were in their own right. And then the tempo came to an abrupt halt with round number 4 having to be cancelled due to unforeseen circumstances at the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, so we didn't get to actually see our first feature race round play out on the 4th of October, so arguably today is our first feature race round, albeit the one that will be executed. And as we can see, we had our first mid-season break after the conclusion of the Northern Cup, within the Central Cup following with round number 5 on the 11th of October at the Austrian circuit of the Red Bull Ring. From the straights and sweepers of Austria, we then made our way to the Hungaroring in round number 6, a very tricky round there in the sprint race, with the fact the circuit never wanting to oblige with natural pace. Indeed, our drivers having to fight for every 10th of a second on the 18th of October, and last time out we were in Germany at the Hockenheimring Baden-Württemberg circuit on the Tilke Design circuit on the 25th of October, and there we got to see our drivers show their technical prowess, and what a brilliant set of battles we had, particularly in the Pro and the Pro-Am classes right at the front of the field for victory, and indeed it all came down to the finest of margins. But today it is Le Mans, and after today we take our second mid-season break, and we return in for our final 4 rounds as of the 15th of November. The Southern Cup seeing a Spanish triple header that begins at the Circuit of Barcelona Catalunya, the ultimate testing circuit arguably, in the fact it is used by multiple series for winter testing and pre-season testing, including Formula 1 and GT World Challenge, and that will be the 15th of November, before we then make our way to Motorland Aragon or the Circuito de Alcañiz, and we'll be seeing our drivers take on the Motorland Aragon circuit there with all its twists and turns, its elevation changes, and its very interesting Spanish corkscrew, a spin on the American corkscrew of Laguna Seca. That'll be on the 22nd of November, and then we conclude our sprint race rounds with round number 11 as Circuito de Jerez, and that'll be on the 29th of November, where its undulations are bound to catch our drivers out before they make the way to Italy for the season finale, our final feature race round of the season at the Autodromo Nacional Enzo Edino Ferrari, also known as Imola in reference to the local township, and we bring it all to a close on the 6th of December, just in time for Christmas. So still plenty to look forward to, but coming onto the Central Cup today, indeed, this is going to be a spectacle not to be missed. But going into today, let's give you a reminder of the Drivers' Championships, and we start off with the overall Drivers' Championship, beginning with the Pro class in particular, and as we can see, after a great set of results so far in this cup, Peter Lowe now leads the way by 8 points over James Logsdon. Logsdon's not been quite on the pace over the last couple of rounds, and indeed has had to settle for results at the bottom end of the top 5, but still keeping Peter Lowe honest, but at the same time, Lowe already delivering and having picked up his first win of the season last time out the Hungaroring, a huge boost to his championship lead, taking that championship lead now for what is the second time this season ahead of Logsdon. John Croom, meanwhile, holds on to P3 on 219 points, 2 clear of Jason Landry, with Croom and Landry duking it out for P3 and the right to chase down the Bear Pope Zero drivers of Logsdon and Lowe. And as we can see in P5, Jordan Butler on 208 points, not falling too far behind the top 4 and starting to build momentum. And this is a running theme of DNA Motorsports. They come on strong beyond the midpoint of the season, and Butler doing exactly that last time out at the Hockenheimring, as we got to see with some brilliant driving. And meanwhile, as we do see there, Milan Harris in P6 and 191 points, looking good there on the score, and therefore 11 clear Jake Gertsen, continue to build up that momentum, albeit Gertsen for reverse good racing, having a degree of inconsistency blight him over the last couple of rounds, and therefore now starting to try and settle himself back down and get back into the hunt for the top 5. Aaron Lahr in P8 ahead of Tanner Dibble, with Logan McKenzie completing your top 10, and outside the top 10 best rest, it's Mika Hendricks and Franz Washing who complete your championship standings. We then come on to the Prime class, and here we can see it's Ilya Spica who leads the way on 213 points ahead of Charles Horsey, and that gap right now absolutely impressive, 49 points as we get ready to go into a mid-season break. And the question is, can anybody slow down the Rockefeller Racing driver, as right now Spica seems to be in a class of his own? Well, Charles Horsey will be keen to do so, given the fact and he managed to pick up his first win of the season last time out at the Hockenheimring, but he's got John Lauzon for company only 5 points behind, and Lauzon's misfortune at the Hockenheimring cost him a major opportunity to close the delta to Speaker and therefore falling back to P3. Avon Dorsey P4 ahead of Mike J. Young, with Keith Wilford just outside the top 5 by 13 points, and it's Adam J. Ballard, Jermaine Warren, Jay DeVries and Dustin Dosvilliers who complete your top 10, and from the 82 points of Dosvilliers, we do have Lee Porter, best dressed P11 on 75 points, and Sammy Hendricks completes the standings. We then come to the AM class, and as we can see here, Samuel Bernardi leads the way, having now found his form with another win, his second win in the row at the Hockenheimring last time out, and 161 points to 146 to J.R. Davis. It does look as now Bernardi is establishing himself as that favourite, which we expected at the start of this season, given his relative performance in previous series hosted by the Middle of the Pack Racing League. However, that's not to say that Davis or 30 Kevin Manning can close the gap, with it only being 15 points between Davis and Bernardi, and then a further 7 to Manning. And then as we can see, Tim Chong at P4 on 120 points, 6 clear of Glenn Bratton, with Mark Senegal P6 ahead of Jesse Jamison Jr. And it's James Kingsbury, Roger Ganesh and Dan Victor who complete your top 10. Best of SP11, Ian Hennebrae, with some difficulty over the last couple of rounds, cost him dear in that hunt for a top 10 position, ahead of Nicholas Feller, with Nick Yakubov, David Turn and Nick Bader completing your top 15. And it's Billman DaCosta, Stefan Chalafu and Braden Melling who complete the standings, with Doug Palmer yet to participate in the round and therefore not scoring any points. But now let's come on to the more important part of today, which is the Drivers' Cup Championship standings, starting with the Pro class. And of course, this is what they're all playing for today, and Peter Lowe leads the way by 5 points over Jason Landry, who's earned the right to be the leader, and he'll be hoping for a calm day at the office at Le Mans in order to bring home what will be the Cup Championship crown. Meanwhile, Landry has been given a hot pursuit all the way through this Cup. However, Lowe has been able to keep one step ahead for the most part, and it is on Landry to try and find a way to step one more clear today. John Croom only a point behind there, also has a major chance, with Croom really being the revelation of the Pro class over the course of the last 3 rounds, with Jordan Butler P4 there, 15 points off of the top 3, not really in the hunt for the top spot at this point, but could play a key factor given his building pace as we make our way around Le Mans today. Tanner Dibble P5 and 116 points, in a similar situation for DNA Motorsports, and 3 clear of Aaron Lahr, with Milan Harris just behind Lahr based on result countback, and it's James Logsdon, Jake Gertsen and Logan McKenzie who complete the standings and the entirety of the top 10. We then come to the Prime class, and here we can see Ilya Spica leads by a relatively dominant 15 points over Keith Wilfred. A 15-point advantage is not going to be easily overhauled unless we do see Spica have a nightmare of a day today, and one of his rivals, particularly Wilfred's, able to achieve a huge result, given the fact that drivers score points based on overall finishing position and bonus points in the Prime and AM classes for podium places. So therefore, the pressure is on Wilfred, and Spica just needs to bring the car home relatively close to his rivals, but as we all know, Ilya Spica does anything but that. Indeed, he he goes for gold every step of the way. Meanwhile, outside the top 2, Avon Dorsey, a further 7 behind, has a 12-point advantage over Charles Halsey, who's starting to rise up through the ranks for that win at last time out, and he's only ahead of John Lauzon based on result countback, with Lauzon completing the top 5 and holding what is a comfortable 19-point gap to Lee Porter in P6, Jermaine Moore in P7, and it's Mike J. Young completing the standings there at P8 on 35 points, with Adam J. Ballard yet to score any points. We then come on to the AM class, and in a similar fashion to the Prime class, it's Samuel Bernardi who holds the advantage that looks to be difficult to overhaul. It's a 19-point advantage over Kevin Manning, and Bernardi with 2 wins back-to-back now will be looking to try and make it a turkey today, or 3 in a row, and where he gets ready to go today, Kevin Manning, meanwhile, will be keen to hold on to that second place spot ahead of Glenn Bratton. 10 points is in his advantage. He looks set to do so, but will it work out that way in practice, with Bratton P3 ahead of Tim Chong, and it's J.R. Davis P5 on 60 points, sits kind of in Henneberry, with Roger Ganesh, Mark Senegal, James Kingsbury and Jesse Jameson Jr. completing the top 10, and Nick Yakubov at P11 there on 24 points, best of the rest and completing the standings. And to then give you a quick update on the overall teams championship, as we look to the wider consideration, Rockefeller Racing Gold continues to lead by a growing advantage now of 529 to the 392 points of DNA Motorsports, who, given their performance last time out the Hockenheim ring, have leapt into P2 ahead of Bear Pope 0, and DNA Motorsports really now the ones to watch as this season goes into its final third, in the fact we could see DNA Motorsports make a late charge for the championship. Bear Pope 0, meanwhile, will be looking to keep DNA Motorsports in check, but they've got to be wary of the fact they've got the Rockefeller Racing Green and Rockefeller Racing Red teams completing the top 5 behind them, and they're not too far behind, with only 6 points separating the 2 sister teams. And in Sunday, GT Turtles moves outside the top 5 for the first time this season. They fall down to P6, but they're only 2 points behind it and looking to break back in as soon as possible. Reverse Grid Racing leads the rest of the field on P7 on 310. They've got the best part of an advantage, what is 23 points over Team Bear Pope, with Photon Clan and ATC Silver completing your top 10. And from one of the Alpha Touring Challenge teams to the other, we see Alpha Touring Challenge Gold there, P11 or ATC Gold and 211 points, 2 clear Slipstream Sloths, with Flavor Station Racing in middle of the pack completing the standings. But coming onto our circuit for today, it's none other than the circuit des 24-hour de Mans, the circuit located near the city of Le Mans in the region of Sarthe in the state of Pays de Loire in France. And well, this circuit, as we can see from the circuit map provided by iRacing.com, thank you to them for their wonderful simulator and the brilliant track maps that come with it, is a circuit which is all about the endurance of both car and driver. In the fact that over the course of the racing around here, a single lap will see our drivers run for full throttle for at least 75% of the lap, with there being multiple extended straights, and when that's all put together, it does mean around here you've got to be willing to deal with the speed, but at the same time be ready to be hard and fast on the brakes in order to get the car stopped, with multiple heavy braking zones as our drivers make their way on around the 8.46 mile circuit. But as they charge the way on across the start-finish line and up towards turns 1, 2 and 3, they'll make their way through the sweeping right-hander, uphill through Dunlop curve into Dunlop chicane. The uphill gradient does not stop, and as they make their way through the left into right of the chicane, they'll go over the rise of the Dunlop bridge at turn number 4 and down into the S's of turns 5, 6 and 7. Then it's all about positioning the car well as they exit out of turn number 7 into Tetrage at turn number 8, where if you can carry the speed for the right hander, you go onto the straight of Mulsanne and carry all the speed full throttle down towards the first of the 2 chicanes. But as they make their way down the straights there in towards the first of braking zones for the chicane, and coming into that braking zone, they'll be fine. They'll be battle under the brakes for plenty as they exit out the first chicane and into the second one. And as they make their way down, still the battle of the slipstream will be ever so critical as they clear the second chicane and up towards Mulsanne corner at turns 14 and 15. Going into the braking zone there, the major heavy braking zone will be coming down from the maximum possible top speed, and they'll find themselves braking through a kink and into a hard right-hand, right-angled apex. And as they exit out, it's in the run to Indianapolis at turns 18 and 19, where the battle of the slipstream reaches its crescendo in the fact you want to be ahead before going into Indianapolis to get the move all said and done. But going through the right into the left sweeper, and then they make their way out towards Arnage, the slowest corner on the circuit, and arguably the hardest corner on the circuit, where it's very late apex, and it's very tight exit wall. And as our drivers make their way out of turn number 20, it's the run onto the final third of the lap, where all the technicality starts to present itself with a run in towards the Porsche curves of turns 23 through to 26. Now it's the right through to a double left, and then a right-hander, which sees our drivers spat out onto turn number 27, a corner which catches many out, given the fact that its track limits are plenty there, and if you run wide, you'll be cautioned with a slowdown penalty. And as they make their way out of turn number 27, it's through the Corvette curves of 28 and 29 flat out as they may, up towards the Ford chicanes of 33 to 33, where the apex speed winds down very dramatically indeed to complete the lap and do it all over again. Now, to give you a quick reminder of our rules before we do go racing, In terms of setups, drivers are running a fixed setup as provided by the middle of the pack Racing League, with car fuel loads restricted to 46% for every round. So that does mean today we will be seeing pit stops as a result, and more on that very shortly. For as we come onto our feature race, the grid order shall be a class reverse grid based on the latest Drivers' Championship standings. That's the overall Drivers' Championship standings, where we will see the lowest placed driver in participation for each class starting at the front of their field, and then we will see the championship leaders start at the back of their field, and the classes shall start in the order of Pro, Pro-Am, and Am. Race starts will be via a single file today, in the fact that due to the tight nature of the forward chicanes, our drivers will be required to run single file as they make their way up to the green flag, and then they will go racing. It will not be double file, and each driver has 2 fast repairs available. And if they accumulate 18 or more instant points, they shall receive a drive-through penalty for their misdemeanors, and there shall be no safety car deployment for this round, due to the fact the automated safety car would occupy 2 laps of racing, and we'll get the fact we're expecting lap times around here to be just shy of 4 minutes. If you put a safety car on top, we'd be spending the best part of 11 to 15 minutes behind the safety car as a minimum, and that's something we do not want to do. That's enough rules, that's enough regulation, everything between, ladies and gentlemen. We're all here for the racing, and we'll, as we return to our trackside pictures here, all drivers right now getting themselves ready to go, and well, including here Jordan Butler with only 1.5 minutes left on the practice clock right now. And I have just been informed as well that with regards to the layout we're running here at Le Mans, it's not going to involve the chicanes on the Mulsanne, so it will mean we will see our drivers reach the maximum possible top speed as they make their way down the Mulsanne straight. Indeed, we are going back in time, ladies and gentlemen, to pre-late 1990s, whereby that was when we did see the introduction of the chicanes on the Mulsanne, due to the fact the prototype machines were picking up so much speed, and due to the flow of air over and under the car, we saw a number of cars end up going skyward, and perhaps the most infamous incident being the Mercedes CLK GTR of Mark Webber that ended up going over the barrier after somersaulting through the air and somehow not harmed or majorly harmed through that, but indeed a huge scare, and that's why the Mulsanne chicanes were added for safety purposes. But one driver right now is out there, and well, he's not keeping it safe. He's going all in today. We haven't seen him for the last couple of rounds. Logan McKenzie for AlphaTauri Change Gold. We look forward to seeing what the number 4 driver can do in support of his team as he makes his way around. But the majority of the drivers in the pit lane currently, indeed, I think they're all aware of the fact they're about to go racing for what will be the first feature race round of the season that will be recorded into the history books. And as we do see McKenzie making his way on to Mulsanne, where it's a very long run down here, and indeed a lot of opportunity for fuel saving down the Mulsanne straight. And as he makes his way on down there, a little bit of trivia for you, and the fact if you do go to Le Mans in order to attend the 24 hour of Le Mans on a given year, you'll find as you walk down the Mulsanne straight, if you do a track walk, there are certain businesses, particularly cafes and restaurants, which only open when the race of Le Mans is on and the track walk's available. Indeed, it's the only time that people can actually access those restaurants. And of course, it's prime tourism time. But we're not here for tourism, we're here for racing. It's time to head to the grid for our race of the day. So as all of our drivers make their way on to the grid, unfortunately we can't quite give you a proper grid walk here, given the fact that we do have a limitation of an iRacing replay file, which is that our grid walk will be scattered and the drivers will not be in the correct order. But we can see them all starting to filter their way onto the grid, and as they do so here, a wonderful day at the French circuit indeed, nestled quite nicely in between city and countryside, with a number of houses located on the inside of the circuit as well as campsites for spectators. And as all of our drivers get themselves set here, well, these conditions could not be nicer. And to put that into perspective for you, ladies and gentlemen, as we can see on the right hand side of your screen, we do have 24 degrees track temperature, that's centigrade, and 26 degrees ambient temperature in centigrade. And it does mean that right now the track is not very much too alive in terms of the amount of heat up there, so our drivers can push quite hard. They can warm that circuit up and really go on the attack with these radical SR8 machines. But as we look back down to the grid, we do look to Peter Lowe, as I do believe we tried to get a view of Peter Lowe. In fact, not quite currently, as I think our camera has got itself glitched up high, but we have been able to get our camera back now. There we are, and as we can see, John Crim all set ready to go. The gridding process is complete, so all of our drivers absolutely ready to go, as Logan McKenzie will be the one to lead them all off, and the AlphaTauri Change Gold driver pulls off behind the safety car here. It's a partial formation lap, not full formation lap. We start on the run towards the Porsche curves, everybody going single file here. It's going to be a long line of cars, but as he makes his way on down, well, you can see a little bit of bobbing and weaving from some drivers there just to start to get some initial tyre temperature into the car, including McKenzie himself. And well, towards the back there, it's going to be Nick Yakubov, who is going to be on pole in the AM class starting P17. Meanwhile, in the Pro-Am class in P11, it will be Adam J. Ballard, who's your pole sitter for today. He gets himself set all and ready to go. He's got the pressure of Keith Wilfred right behind him. And Wilfred very well placed in order to potentially go for the class win today, and that could be able to tip the balance in his favour in terms of later on in this championship as he makes his way on through there. And of course, these reverse grid racing with these reverse grid races, I should say, with the fact we do have reverse grid racing as a team on there, not to confuse the two. They are always a great opportunity for drivers who have had a difficult season up to this given point in time to be able to pick up some points and get themselves right back on a good footing. But we can tell you that Jesse Jameson Jr. starting from the pit lane, and Francois Schinck, who was expected to be on the grid, unfortunately it does sound as though the car's having some technical issues, so we may not see Schinck on the grid, and if so, that is very unfortunate because we do miss seeing the Alpha Touring change driver. But as our drivers make the way on through, we do ride on board with Glenn Bratton. He's just making his way in the slipstream behind Mark Senegal at the moment, albeit not at racing speed, and just holding a position there. And well, now the pace starting to build as they head on towards the Corvette curves here. We are not too far away from going racing, ladies and gentlemen. Place your bets in terms of who's going to be your winner for today here at Le Mans, because we are only at now about 30 seconds away from Logan McKenzie taking us to the green flag, and with that 45 minutes of racing await us as we do see the safety car pitting off, and it is Logan McKenzie who will take us to the green come the end of the Ford chicanes. And it's lights out and away we go for 45 minutes of racing. McKenzie does not wait to pull the trigger on the throttle, and as he makes his way up towards turn number 1, a big weave there to try and break the toe from Tanner Dibble. Meanwhile, behind we can see Jake Gertsen making some early progress as he goes side by side in the battle with Milan Harris. The reverse grid racing driver on the outside coming into Dunlop. Lock up in front from Aaron Lara goes very deep. That's going to release drivers on through. Meanwhile, behind it's got very wrong for James Logston. Rear of the car coming loose on the bare pole drive, having a nightmare start to the race here at Le Mans. He's got to try and get things back together very quickly so not to lose the pack and the toe onto the Mulsanne straight. But meanwhile, as he brings it back together, Samuel Bernardi having a relatively slow start. The M class being caught out at the start of the Ford chicanes, and therefore they've fallen a long way back already. Bernardi and Jameson are really experienced that, with Jameson starting from the pit lane, of course. But as they make the way on towards Tech Rouge, meanwhile we look to Aaron Lahr battling side by side here. Meanwhile, it's 3-4 wide in the rear of the picture. That's Keith Wilfred, John Crimhaven Dorsey, and MJ Ballard. And as all the Rockefeller Racing drivers start to negotiate around one another, when it's the run down the Mulsanne for the first time, it's flat out every step of the way here. No chicanes to talk about, so everybody right now needs to pick a slipstream partner to work with and just take their time and try and save a little bit of fuel, perhaps back on the throttle slightly, and just enable them to go a bit longer on their opening stint before they do have to make the pit stop given the fuel loads. But right now everybody tussling back and forth here, all trying to find a bit of track position as they come through. Nick Yakubov losing out there. In fact, he's got, I think, a slowdown, Yakubov, unless he's completely backing off to tuck into the toe, but that is indicative of a slowdown there being picked up potentially from Tech Rouge. You can see there's no speed in the car, and the slipstream slosh try now building up speed once again, but that is going to be hugely punishing, and indeed that's going to drop him all the way down towards the very back of the field. But meanwhile, at the front of the field, Logan McKenzie right now ahead of Milan Harris. He's held on to lead for the opening half of the lap, but now into the heavy braking zone they come for Mulsanne. They've still got a way to go as they make the way slightly upgrading before going downhill into that braking zone, over the rise and into the fall. And as they come down here onto the brakes, McKenzie defending hard to the inside, 3 wide behind of Harris, Butler and Gertsen. Gertsen looking around the outside. Meanwhile, it's Harris in the middle of the road, and it's going to be Butler on the inside of DNA Motorsports driver, getting his elbows out there, forcing the position back open. And as they come out to the corner and now on towards Indianapolis they go, when that's run up towards turns 18 and 19, and as they do, we're right now all together. Meanwhile, John Lauzon and even Dorsey exchanges in real state as they power their way up towards Indianapolis. Car around in the rear of the picture, that's Nick Yakubov who's got it very wrong, but as he tries to get it righted, meanwhile, Lauzon here being pushed on a little bit by Charles Holsey. Avon Dorsey also trying to get into the mix, and as they make the way underneath the Toyota billboard, right now it does look as though Lauzon will hold the track position from them. Meanwhile, we have Jake Gertsen up the inside here, Logan McKenzie into Indianapolis trying to go for the move, but McKenzie there holds it around the outside. Gertsen a little bit tentative, not wanting to spoil the race before they've even completed a lap. And as they come on through our large corner, well, right now all nose to tail once again as they roar their way back up the gearbox to the 3.7 litre V8 engines, absolutely roaring to life here. And as we ride on board and look back from the rear, Jordan Butler, the DNA Motorsports driver, confident right now. It's been a good start for him in the number 72, but you've got to keep in mind, of course, whilst he may be leading, is he leading on strategy? Is he leading on the fuel that he needs to get to the pit? And that's going to be the big thought process for so many here, in terms of the fact it's not about the start of this race, it's about the end of the race and being in the lead come that final lap. But as they make the way through the Porsche curves here, Butler absolutely glued to the tarmac, and behind McKenzie and Gertsen falling back. But keep in mind, Butler here doesn't have the effect of dirt yet over the front end of the car, and therefore will be feeling a bit more confident in the car by comparison. But as the DNA Motorsports driver makes his way through the left there on towards the Ford chicanes, we can see Aaron Lahr starting to fall back a little bit. John Croom looking up the inside. This isn't a battle for P6. Went back P7 as they come onto the brakes, and Lar losing out there. Kroon being allowed to go on through, but I think the Canadian driver opting to play it safe rather than sorry as they make the way onto lap number 2. So after one lap of racing, it is Jordan Butler who leads ahead of Logan McKenzie P2, Milan Harris P3, Jason Landry P4, Tanner Dibble P5, Jake Gertson P6, John Kroon P7, Aaron Lar P8, Keith Wilfred, your Pro-Am leader P9 ahead of John Lauzon, and meanwhile your AM leader Ian Henneberry is P13 for Barefoot 0. We have had an incident for Glenn Bratton. He's come into the pits, I think, with some damage to the car, and Avon Dorsey's also recently had a spin, but other drivers are still trying to make some progress, to include John Lauzon here as he battles his way with Charles Holsey, albeit Holsey trying to go on the offensive here. So it is Lauzon who is the defender, and as they make the way through the S's, the Alpha Touring Change still the driver carrying on, as meanwhile we are hearing that Jesse Jamison Jr. has had an incident further down the order as well. We haven't quite got the data as to what's happened to Jesse Jamison Jr., but something has gone wrong further down the field, and Nick Yakubov in the pit lane after the earlier spins. I think that will be for a replacement set of tyres, perhaps see some repair work to the suspension of the car, but as our drivers power the way on through. We do say hello there in the Twitch chat to that for real Jizzle, and I hope you're doing that for real. I hope you're doing very well today as our drivers charge away on down the moles down for the second time of asking, and Logan McKenzie here right now. You can see one hand he wants to stay behind Butler, on the other hand he's got Milan Harris really pushing him along all the way. And to put it in perspective, ladies and gentlemen, as we bring up the dashboard in the bottom right hand corner of your screen, you can see there right now, albeit it's not the most accurate dashboard in the world, but the drivers are hitting the best part of 165 miles an hour here. They're topping out on the rev limiter in 6th gear as they make the way on through, and that is the sensor speed they're carrying on down here. Prototypes, meanwhile, at Le Mans will be reaching in excess of 230 miles an hour, but still, they're prototypes. We're here with Radicals today, and this is the Radical Racing Championship as they make the way in towards the next braking zone. Butler still ahead of Harris, with McKenzie dropping back into P3 here, and a little bit of negotiating going. You've got to try and work together as a group here. You want to break away from the cars behind. In a way, it becomes a little bit synonymous with NASCAR to a brief extent in the early stage of the race, particularly down the moles and straight. But after they come to more technical half a lap, that's where if you're leading, you want to try and open up that gap if possible. But meanwhile, looking a bit further back, this is Tim Chong from Slipstream Last, who's battling side by side there with Jay Davis, and oh goodness me, Chong with a lock up there, goes very deep, gets it stopped in time. Kevin Manning follows with 3 wide, and into the wall goes Samuel Bernardi, and the Rockefeller Racing red driver. Well, 3 does not go into 2 on the exit of Mulsanne, and that's exactly what happens when you try to go 3 wide. And I think with Manning getting it wrong by going deep, and Bernardi there being in the wrong place at the wrong time as he looked up the inside of the pair of them, where it was contact on contact, and Bernardi was the one pinballed out as he makes his way back up to speed here. Not too much damage on the car, but still not the way he's wanted it to go. Meanwhile, Tim Chong making his way down in towards Indianapolis right now. The Slipstream Slosh driver still holding on here as he comes on through the left-hander of Indianapolis and onwards towards RG goes on the attack versus James Kingsbury, and we ride on board here with the Canadian as he comes on through the right-hander and on towards the straight. And you can see there just getting a nice run out the corner, and the same for Kingsbury, nothing between them here as they power their way up towards the next lap, but charging up through the throttle here. I do say that Tim Chong right now might just be backing it off a little bit, trying to keep within arm's reach of Kingsbury, but not in a rush to hunt him down. Otherwise, if he battles with Kingsbury, he may lose time to Senegal and Henneberry, the leaders of the AM class, and then you lose the opportunity to go for the win here. And indeed, it only takes 1 or 2 major battles, and it all falls down very rapidly indeed as they make the way on through the Porsche curves and in towards the Corvette curves very shortly. But also John having to deal with the dirty air right now. You can see they're going for much earlier apexes by comparison as Kingsbury goes a little bit wide there, and I do wonder how close that was to an automated slowdown given the track limits. Not to be this time, but Kingsbury I think will have had a bit of a heart in mouth moment there, thinking did I just get myself a slowdown, as meanwhile lock up there for Jay Davis going straight on the forward chicane. James Logston doesn't hold twice about going for the move, gets it done, and also Keith Manning comes, well not Keith Manning, Kevin Manning I should say, comes on through, but as he builds up the speed now, Jay Davis there getting away with the runoff area, but he does lose 2 places for the price of 1 mistake. Meanwhile, leaders making the way already down into the S's once again, and as we can see, it's Landry ahead of Dibble as they make the way in to the left-hander. Meanwhile, going slowly, that is Logan McKenzie, and I can tell you that McKenzie, I believe, has picked up a slowdown for track limits at what was the Dunlop chicanes. The Alpha Touring Change Gold driver drops down to P5, doesn't lose too much, but he loses the leaders in terms of the top 2 as you see them just making the way underneath our cameraman. But meanwhile, McKenzie's still in the tow of Dibble and Landry, so that keeps him in honest attacking distance, but of course he won't make any more mistakes mistakes like that, because otherwise he will be relegated backwards towards John Crim and Keith Wilfred, and that's not a place you want to be when you want to be winning this race. You want to be, if not in the lead pack, you want to be in the secondary pack that's chasing it down and trying to work with those drivers. But you can see here in the fact that with Landry and Dibble working together, McKenzie is losing a little bit of delta with regards to that time between them, only losing a hundredth or two, but that's where you can work together and almost in a way bump draft one another along, albeit these cars very sensitive to contact, so I think it'll be less bump drafting today and more just tucking in the toe and literally being as close as the nose of the car allows. As McKenzie there ran onto the grass almost, I think it might just be a little bit of bump in the road unsettling the car, and McKenzie having some slight latency issues as well, and hopefully that's not a sign of something else to come here for McKenzie, because if so, that would be absolute disaster. But meanwhile, Jordan Butler tucked in to by Miller and Harris, and these two really trying to break away and make this lead their own by 1.5 seconds. But Butler, knowing that he does have Dibble, his teammate, in full place trying to come up, and I would imagine that Butler and Dibble might be on the radio to one another trying to make this work and trying to get together at some point to go for a 1-2 here today. They were denied it last time at the Hockenheimring. It became a 2-3 in the end behind Peter Lowe, but as Butler goes a bit wide, this is going to be Harris's opportunity to shine as he looks for it, but then backs off, recognising it's too long a run right now. Meanwhile, further behind, we see Tim Chong. Oh, goodness me, contact there between Tim Chong and the rear of Mark Senegal's car. Senegal going straight on as a result of Molzan, and well, Chong will get away with that in terms of the relative damage on the car right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be reports to the stewards after today's race, given the fact also some damage to the front of the car. You can see it's cost him a bit of speed there as Logston going along the inside here, down through the kinks towards Indianapolis, but a major shunt, and therefore Mark Senegal's race now in tatters and trying to put it back together. But I can tell you that Mark Senegal is still, as he's just making his way up to speed, he's in a car that's still trying to find a bit more its pace, and indeed a nasty moment that one. Meanwhile, Charles Halsey has been taken to the pits. We haven't got any suggestions as to why he's been taken to the pits, but it's gone very wrong for Charles Halsey, I believe. It may have been a disconnect of some description as John goes a bit deep there through Arnage, but he brings it back together just in time. But that front car damage might be starting to really assail him in terms of the pace of the car, as Kingsbury is going to look up the inside into the Porsche curves, giving one another plenty of space here. And the Flavor Station Racing driver thinks about it. He's not quite got the speed yet, so therefore has to tuck back in instead and wait for the next opportunity. As meanwhile, Mark Senegal in the wounded 227 Sunday GT Turtles machine, well, right now just trying to see where the feel of the car is, and can he get it around here before he has to go to what would be a strategic pit stop, or does he have to take that pit stop early due to the damage picked up? You never say never, but we do have 2 fast repairs available to our drivers, and therefore they can use those fast repairs to their delight when they do take their scheduled pit stops. But of course you don't want to bring your pit stop forward if you can help it. But meanwhile, looking from Mark Senegal, we do look up the road to Jake Gertsen, who's got it very wrong there in the Ford chicanes, and well, for Jake Gertsen, not the way he wanted it to go. As he brings up the speed here, well, it was a spin as we're to understand it. We just caught the tail end of that tail spin, and right now the reverse grid racing driver coming back together, but a nasty moment there. And as he brings it on through, we can also give you an update to say there was contact between Charles Halsey and Aaron Lott at Indianapolis, so it was not a disconnect for Charles Halsey. He's had to be towed to the pits after the contact, and that contact has rendered the car into a position where it was immobile, and therefore it's had to be towed on back. So Charles Halsey's race coming to an abrupt end. At the same for Aaron Lott, we didn't quite catch it on camera, but we can give you the update as to why they both had to be towed to the pits on that previous lap. As Gertsen makes his way up behind in to Tenterouge here, now trying to get himself back on the hunt, albeit dropping down to P13 overall. That's P8 in pro class, and on the run here down Molzan he goes once again, and as he builds up the speed this time, I think Gertsen just some wounds to the tyres, nothing more, nothing less. And as we see up there in the YouTube chat, we say hello to Logan McKenzie, who explains why we saw quite a bit of bobbing and weaving from the Alvator and Change Gold driver on the Molzan straight last time round, and it was because his headset disconnected. He was trying to reconnect it down the straight. It was not fun, and I can only imagine how stressful that must have been, keeping one hand on the wheel but at the same time having to look away. You never want to have to do that, and indeed many a situation where drivers have had equipment foul on them. Perhaps the most infamous one in Formula 1 being Kimi Raikkonen not being able to get the drink and having to try and find a way of getting the drink back, being told he'll not get the drink. But right now the only drink our drivers will be looking for will be the champagne come the end of today, and Jordan Butler from DNA Motorsports right now is the man who's eager to try and make that happen as he makes his way down to the final part of Molzan, and well, as he heads in towards the braking zone here, opening the corner up as much as possible. I think him and Harris are forming a bit of a mutual agreement here, which is let's not fight one another until the closing stage of this race. But the problem they've got is the fact they might be in the mutual agreement, but there's one driver who's probably saying right now, do you mind if I tag along? And that's Jason Landry for Sunday GT Turtles, who right now is only 7.5 tenths off and well within slipstream zone as he makes his way up towards Indianapolis. But meanwhile, oh goodness me, it's gone very wrong, and that's John Lauzon, and the Alpha Touring Change silver driver, as we're just about to say, found himself right in the medley of a pack of 6 cars. A spin there coming out of Mulsanne, and it was into the wall for the Canadian driver, and with that, the bad luck returns to the 177 driver, as Lauzon has really had the worst luck this season compared to most of his peers, and will right now, despite the fact he's had some better fortune in more recent rounds, it has come back to haunt him as he tries to get that car back up to speed. But I suspect that might be a trip to the pits before not too long, given the fact that was a nasty knock to the wall, and how much damage will it have done? That will be the question that will be on his mind, as meanwhile Kevin Manning here in the Votan Clan Golf Machine making his way up behind Tim Chong. They're battling for P4 in the AM class here, and will right now the onus is on Manning to try and make the move, but can he find a way up the inside this time into Indianapolis? No, he can't, and therefore he's going to have to wait his turn as he makes his way up towards our large corner. Flames spitting out the rear of Chong's car there as he goes down the gearbox, and as they make the way out of the right hand, Mark Senegal closing up behind them. So Senegal, despite the fact he has got some damage on his car, that damage not upsetting the balance of that Radical SR8, and therefore Senegal on a mission here to go on the offensive. We jump on board with the 227 drivers Sunday GT Turtles, and right now staying close in the hunt there, and I think feeling as though all he needs to do now is stay in the tow, and that can offset the damage he's got on the car, and therefore enable him to pick up some straight line speed. As we see what was there, Chong going very deep for the first part of the Porsche curves. Manning has to back off here, and now it's nose to tail between the 3 of them as they make the way through the left into right of turn number 26. But you can see there with the dirty Senegal having to back off completely. Manning doing the same, and Chong able to hold the position as they make the way out and on towards the Corvette curves, but very close there. Mark Senegal right now proving to be a bit of thorn in the rear of both of them. John Lauzon is into the pit lane. I can confirm, ladies and gentlemen, the damage has meant he's had to come in early. Meanwhile, Jake Gertson has had an incident going on to the full flab. We'll get you an update on why he's had to be towed to the pits, but Jake Gertson is into the pits via tow for reverse grid race. It's gone very, very wrong with Jake Gertson, and we can confirm that with regards to the incident, it was for a spin at the forward chicanes, in fact, so just we went on to next lap, and that's led to him having to be towed. But meanwhile, as we go on to what for our drives now is lap number 5 on the lead lap. Well, all those are still out there on the lead lap, pushing hard and trying to make some further progress. And meanwhile, it's 1, 2, 3 in the Pro-Am class here for Rockefeller Racing, with what is the red driver of Keith Wilfred ahead of the green driver of Ilya Speaker, and then, in fact, the gold driver, I should say, of Ilya Speaker. I promise you, I'm not colourblind, just reading the colours in the wrong order. And then we do have Adam J. Ballard in the green machine just behind, albeit Wilfred there taking a bit of a peek around his pro sister teammate of John Crim for Rockefeller Racing Gold. And as they make the way down the Mulsanne straight, on the speed they go and onwards towards Mulsanne, and here right now all trying to work together in order to save some fuel and also save some race time as they continue to push on. But meanwhile, Manning versus Chong here, we talked about the fact we expected these two to potentially be looking at a battle soon, and you can see they're side by side all the way down the Mulsanne. They're only about a third of the way so far, and as they head in towards turn number 15, it's a long way away going down towards Mulsanne corner. Well, Mark Senegal also getting involved here. Could it be a free wide in to the right hander? We'll have to wait and see. And they're now halfway down the straight here, starting to make the way past the golf course, which is on the infield, and as they head in towards the next braking zone still, Chong a slight nose ahead here in the middle of the road, and meanwhile Manning on the outside, and Mark Senegal, I think he's waiting for the right time to pull out and make it free wide as they get ready to go into the king of turn number 13, and as they do, Senegal starting to peel out, but Chong sees it coming and decides to fade back across. But as they head in towards, they've also got Kingsbury just a little bit further, and in fact Davis a little bit further and then Kingsbury, but Davis is the important one there. He might be giving a distant tow to Chong or Manning, and was ahead in towards Mulsanne now. Will there be any positioning from Mark Senegal? Well, in fact not to try and get the move on Tim Chong, but he does gut the inside of Kevin Manning, but he loses the rear of the car, and Manning's not able to react and goes straight into the rear of right quarter panel of Mark Senegal's car. It goes around there, and the Sunday GT Turtles driver once again falling foul of an instant, and this time, well, that could be significant enough damage to cause him to need to come into the pits. Indeed, that was a nasty knock on the side of the car, and I think after the race, well, I think he and Kevin Manning will have a little chat and say, well, there's nothing that can be done about it, given how close they were. That's racing, but indeed, in the heat of the moment, Mark Senegal right now can understand if he might be a little bit frustrated. But meanwhile, as we do look to Jason Landry here, P3 currently, and falling back over the top two, with Butler and Harris exchanging the lead on the run down Mulsanne, but Butler returning to the lead by the time they got into Indianapolis, and Jason Landry, meanwhile, the Sunday GT Turtles right now under increasing pressure from Tanner Dibble. It would seem as though that Landry has decided to pause his pace in the chase at the top two, and instead now Dibble's getting closer and closer as they make their way in towards the Ford chicanes for what is the 5th time of asking. But this top 4 have clearly broken away with Logan McKenzie in P5, a further what is now 6.2 seconds off. So it looks to be a 4-way fight for the win here overall and in the pro class, albeit that's a little bit early to say, perhaps given we're not even half distance. But the point being, right now these 4 have definitely broken away and started to really up the pace. Their average lap pace at this time is a high 38. Meanwhile, for Logan McKenzie, in relative contextual comparison, he's running in the mid-40s at the moment with no toe available to him, and that's why having a slipstream partner is so pivotal to success here at Le Mans. But meanwhile, in further news, we have had a moment for J.R. Davies only moments ago coming out of our nage, and it was a spin that set him quite a way down in P16. For Rockefeller Racing Red has sent him all the way down there, losing multiple places, in fact promoted. Oh, goodness me. And we say that it's a further man for J.R. Davis. He gets the cut off of the racing line, and the Ford chicanes has to turn it back around. Mark Senegal being released on through there, but J.R. Davis definitely having a couple of spins and not happy ones, and as a result now down to P7 in the AM class when he was previously in P2 in the AM class. So he's fallen a long way down the order, but still at 9 there's time to come. And meanwhile, one driver who we haven't really talked about too much, apart from the fact that he did start from the pit lane, and well, we were about to sing his praises as he catches the car just in time. The Votan Clan driver from the US of A of the 231 of Jesse Jamison Jr., and we were going to be singing his praises quite highly given the fact he started from the pit lane. He's made his way into P5, but a brilliant catch from that man as he got it back together coming out of Dunlop chicane. We thought that was going to the wall, but Jamison Jr. proving otherwise as he pulled it back together, but a near miss there. I think just a bit too much heat in the tyres perhaps and getting too eager on the throttle pedal, but it's very easy to do here given that the fact the tyres of these cars wear down rather rapidly even at Le Mans. And as he makes his way onto the Mulsanne straight, meanwhile Tim Chong and Kevin Manning, well now they just have their two-way battle, and Mark Senegal falling further afield after the contact between Senegal and what was Manning only a lap ago. And as they make the way down towards Mulsanne corner very shortly, well right now I think Manning will just be staying behind there, not looking to try and adventure anything, for the simple reason that patience makes it a great virtue as he goes in towards the next braking zone. And meanwhile from them, Keith Wilfred right now, as we see the Rockefeller Racing at train, well that is John Kroomer at the front of it, then you've got Keith Wilfred, then Ilya Speak, and then Adam J. Ballard, the 4 of them all together here and all right now dancing away through the corners and trying to save fuel off one another and gain relative race time as they accelerate their way up to speed and go on down towards Indianapolis. You can see it right now, they are trying to chase down Peter Lowe, but Peter Lowe comfortably ahead of them by a degree as the Bear Pope Zero driver makes his way inwards towards Indianapolis. He does have in return what is a 3.5 second gap to Logan McKenzie, albeit that gap is coming down rather rapidly. In the fact last lap Peter Lowe was able to take 2 seconds out of McKenzie as he makes his way out of Indianapolis and in towards Arnage. This time it is definitely going the way of Peter Lowe here to look for that P5, and well, given the results currently, if things were to finish as they currently stand, I do believe Peter Lowe would just about snatch what would be the Central Cup in the Pro class. It'd be very close between him and his rivals, but he should just be able to do it. So he'll be positive in that, but he'll also be wanting to gain a couple more places to give himself a bit more security, because we do see Jason Landry and company move up a couple more places, then the odds will be turned the other way. But as Lowe winds his way through the Porsche curves, meanwhile we do look back to the top 4 here as they wind their way out of the Porsche curves and through the Corvette curves now, and still Jordan Butler leading ahead of Harris, followed by Landry, then Dibble. But this top 4 now down to only 1.5 seconds between them, and they all come in the pits in synchronicity. And meanwhile, as they all make the way through, I do believe there that may be the car of what is, as they made the way across the line very shortly, albeit we can't quite discern it. I believe that was Glenn Bratton making his way on past 8 to lap down. Speed carries on. Will we see McKenzie come into the pits? No, Logan McKenzie stays out, and I wonder whether McKenzie's downed his pace intentionally to get another lap on the board as he makes his way up towards turn at number 1 here. And will McKenzie, in doing so, the reason a driver might try and go a little bit longer and do some extra fuel saving is just simply because you hold track position, and also should your rivals come out of the pits and start fighting, they could cost one another time. When you come into the pits, you leapfrog them by going longer than them, or the overcut as it's known these days. And as he makes his way down up through the S's, the Alpha Touring Challenge Gold driver here, definitely on a different strategy. Peter Lowe following suit as well. John Kroon, Keith Wilfred, Ilya Speak and Adam Ballard doing the same, and James Kingsbury staying out. But meanwhile, exiting the pits, it is Jordan Butler who makes his way back out, and Jason Landry comes back out behind him. So Landry gaining the place. Meanwhile, from them, we can see that Milan Harris is still ahead of one driver in the former Tanner Dibble, but he's lost a place to Landry. So a reversal of positions there, and Harris, I think, having and to instead put some more fuel in the car in order to make it to the end, perhaps burning a bit more fuel by comparison in order to stay with Butler on that opening stint, and that may now explain why we're going to see Dibble try and get a bit close here as we go into the second stint, because he'll be eager to try and work with Harris to close up the gap to Butler and Landry to make it a DNA Motorsports 1-2, but as they head in towards Tetcherucci with a gap of 2 seconds between Landry and Harris, that 2 seconds is not going to be easy to close on down as they head onwards towards Mulsanne. But from then we do look to Tim Chong and Jordan Butler here, and Butler going around the outside on the curvature, and now onto the straight they go. It's a long run on down, and well, for these drivers right now, they'll need to figure out who's going to lead, and it will be Butler who leads the group as they head down the straight. Meanwhile, up front, Peter Lowe and Logan McKenzie there together. McKenzie here dropping in behind Peter Lowe, and I think McKenzie is playing a huge strategic game here in the fact he may not have the one-lap pace compared to his rivals, but I think he's trying to gain race time by simply saving as much as possible in the car. He's got to be careful, of course, in this side-by-side with Peter Lowe. Not there's going to be contact between them, but for the simple reason in the fact if they can't agree on who's going to be the leader, they will naturally start to fight, and that's where you lose the race time return. Also, you might have to burn a little bit of extra fuel as they make their way up to speed now, heading down towards Indianapolis. Lowe will pill out here and look up the inside of the Kinks as they make their way all the way towards turns 18 and 19. So these two right now just simply negotiating back and forth and a little bit of a tussle between them, but knowing that there's a pit stop coming soon, albeit saying that I think Peter now wants to be ahead of Logan as they head in towards that next braking zone here, and well, Peter Lowe on the inside as he goes on in. McKenzie still there and return the inside into 19. It's going to be side by side as they clear the corner, but Peter Lowe will fall back and Logan McKenzie will take the lead on track, albeit this won't be the lead on strategy, and therefore we are expecting to come back out for the battle for P5 overall when all is said and done in the pit stops. But a great little battle between the two of them. What we thought was just them mutually trying to fuel save off one another has turned out to be a little bit of a side-by-side battle for that track position for when they come into the pits. As they make their way up towards the Porsche curves. And meanwhile, further down the order, one driver who's on a recovery drive here, Charles Halsey in the battle for P21 with Mark Senegal as they make their way up towards what will be Mulsanne, albeit they've got the King first, the turn number 13, and then the right-hand hairpin. And as Villa Racing Green driver stays as close as possible. He knows he can't really go for the move right now. He'll have to go for it once they get in towards the trail braking zone. As always, he'll just naturally lose time here and burn excess fuel. And well, Mark Senegal, I think, won't put up too much of a fight by the time they get there, for the simple reason they've got a long way to go. The pair of them both had a difficult race so far. And as Charles Hosty stays behind, he's also got the run towards Indianapolis, and I think that might be where he goes to move it instead as he backs off there quite notably. Senegal goes very deep, just stops it from going to the ground, but Hosty will have to go around, and in doing so that's going to cost them both a bit of time. Meanwhile, into the pits comes Logan McKenzie from the lead. It's race Peter Lowe, John Kroom, Keith Wilfred, Ilya Speaker, and also Adam J. Ballard coming in. Keith Wilfred, the leader of the Prime class. What about James Kingsbury? Was he comes from free leader of the AM class. Kingsbury's yet to pit. He is one of a number of AM drivers who've yet to pit. Also Tim Chong, and also there Kevin Manning and Gerald Davies included in that mix, and also Jesse Jemison Jr. And Kingsbury goes another lap. Goodness me, he's absolutely extended his fuel tank, and credit to the Flavour Station Racing driver. This is a phenomenal drive so far from Kingsbury, looking to try and take his first win of the season, if my memory serves me correctly. He goes on to lead a lap of this race then, and as he makes his way on through, Jordan Butler follows up behind, and Jason Landry, Millen Hassan, Tanner Dibble. But coming out of the pit lane, that's Peter Lowe, and he comes out in a very lonely, what will be effective P5 when Kingsbury pits. But the point being, he's completely left Logan McKenzie behind, and I wonder whether Peter Lowe's underfueled, because of the fact he has come out by the best part of what is 5.5 seconds there to Logan McKenzie. And what I don't want to put the curse on Peter Lowe right now, but I suspect there's going to need to be a lot of fuel saving from the Bear Pope Zero drive towards the end of this race. Alternatively, he's going to be running out of fuel at some point, because there's no way surely that he would have underfueled by 5 seconds in the pits by comparison with McKenzie, or 4 seconds with some fuel saving thrown in there, and will be able to make it to the end given the amount of fuel that is drained out the car on a lap here at Le Mans. I may be wrong, and well, we could wait to see Peter Lowe prove me wrong, but as they make the way on through here, well, right now everyone will be thinking they've got enough fuel in the car, but there's always that little thought in the back of your mind: did you take enough fuel? Is the data correct? And as they make the way on through, also keep in mind, with this being a timed race, if we do see the clock tick over just after they go onto another lap, is it a lap that nobody expected to have to do today? That will be the big question, because right now Looking at the fact we do have an average lap time here of our leaders of 3 minutes 40, and well, if you do round it up to 4 minutes, 4s into 45, do go 11 with a little bit of spare change, and then when you do take 20 seconds off a piece, we could be looking at the region of somewhere between 12 to 13 laps here, if my maths is correct. And if so, if we do get a 13th lap and it's a surprise to anyone, could we see any other drivers have to come into the pit come the end of lap number 12 to have to make it to the end safely on fuel capacity? We'll have to see. But meanwhile, as they all make the way on it down towards Mulsanne corner, right now Jordan Butler encroaching closer and closer to Kingsbury, the leader who's yet to bid. So Butler, your effective leader, with Jason Landry right behind. Onto the brakes they go. Butler having to go around the outside of the Flavor Station Racing Drive, not carrying as much speed into the corner. And meanwhile, that's Harris into the wall, losing the rear of the car, coming out of Mulsanne. He's not the first driver to do it today, but he's another victim of the Mulsanne right-hander. And as the number 96 driver brings it back together, it's a nasty knock to the tyre barrier. And I think that car may be struggling here for power. And indeed, Milan Harris has the park up on the side of the road. That's a toe to the pit, and it's a heartbreak for the Rockefeller Racing Gold driver, who was looking so strong for his best performances of the season. And it's all become undone with just one critical error. It's so easy to do. We've seen so many do it, but the first one who's fallen foul of that corner had to be towed to the pits immediately. Right now, Martin will be hoping not to make any more mistakes at that corner, and as he makes his way upwards towards Mulsanne right now, with Charles Halsey right behind. Martin P5 in class, and we do believe it is P5 after the strategy as well, with Ian Hennebury, Tim Chong, Jesse Jamison Jr. all having pitted in front of him. James Kingsbury is the only one yet to pit, but we believe that Kingsbury will be battling for P2, P3 with Chong and Jamison. We'll have to wait and see when it is confirmed after the pit stop. Sinelgon goes quite deep there, but brings it just back on. A number of drivers going very deep, coming on through Moles and just carrying a little bit too much speed under brake and trying to get the car rotated, but doing so just in time there. And won't keep making that error, because the more and more he does it, of course, particularly when the car gets lighter, and then the car wants to carry more speed, and under braking as well, you've got less weight to hold the car back under the retardation force of the brakes. So naturally, the car wants to glide more into the corner, and that's what can catch you out. But meanwhile, this man makes his way into the pits very gradually and safely here, and the Flavor Station Racing driver of James Kingsbury, where he doesn't want to pick up any speeding penalties, albeit I think already on the limiter there before the limiter line, so it's going to cost him quite a bit of time on pit entry, but at the same time the 238 driver playing it safe, and you can understand why 15 minutes ago he's had one of his best performances of the season here today so far. And even if it's not the win, perhaps it's a podium, it's going to be one that's very well earned as he makes his way down the pit lane. Where is Ian Hennebury meanwhile? Well, here is the driver who we believe will become your AM leader once again for Bear Pope Zero. The 237 driver makes his way through the 4 chicanes, and I can tell you that Kingsbury's still making his way on down pit lane at the moment. In fact, he is in his pit box now and being searched, but Ian Hennebury will come on through to retake the AM lead with 14 minutes and a final lap on the clock. And as he heads on through, where's Tim Chong? Meanwhile, well, Chong's making his way out of the Corvette curve, so that's a long way away, and you can see Jesse Jamison Jr. closing quite rapidly behind. In fact, Jesse Jamison Jr. a second a lap faster over the last 4 laps. He's closing quickly as Chong there with a small lock-up into the 4 chicanes, and as they make the way on through, well, James Kingsbury comes back out, and he is well clear of Tim Chong by the best part of what will be at least 4 seconds as he makes his way up towards the Dunlop chicane here for what will be the 9th time of asking. As he comes on through. Meanwhile, we do look to Jason Landry here, who has taken the lead, and our spotters around the circuit have advised me that it is due to the fact that Jordan Butler picked up a slowdown through Tetra Rouge, and that has led to Landry being able to take the lead, albeit not breaking away. And meanwhile, we only just looked away from the man, but Tim Chong, as soon as we looked away, going up into the Dunlop chicane, he's had a spin at the chicane, and that's released both what is, in fact, it's released Jesse Jamison Jr. on through, and it has brought Mark Senegal a little bit closer now, 6 seconds off of Chong. So the battle for the final spot of the AM podium is well and truly on between Jamison Jr., who you see in the foreground of your camera shot, and Chong in the rear of the picture. 13 minutes between them, and this could definitely be a huge fight as they make the way on down Mulsanne here. And the question will be, can Chong get close up? He is in the tow already, in fact, as they build the way down. And we ride on board here with the 222 driver, and you can see, whilst it doesn't look as though initially Jamison Jr. is getting closer, he is. I can promise you, those images are starting to appear bigger on your screen, and well, they're getting now down to 8 tenths. It was originally a whole second when we started riding on board here, and that's how the slipstream works. And the slipstream in these cars on the long straight will extend all the way out to the best part of 1.5 seconds, and that's the gap you've got to try and create before you go onto the Mulsanne, alternating on the run towards Indianapolis if you want to be safe at the slipstream. But as now Chong within 4 attempts already almost, and you can hear the car just constantly bouncing off the rev limiter here, indeed maxing out and as he continues his way on down, in the toe, he's now right with attacking distance here, just before they do get to the kink, past the woodland and in towards Mulsanne Corner. They get ready to go, and will Chong look for the move here, or will he just simply hold fire? And I mean, it's going to be a latter as he has lifted off slightly in order to stay behind, just lift off the throttle by about 10 to 20%, and that gives him the option to save some fuel here and not get too close as they make the one to the brakes, and indeed waiting for the run now up towards Indianapolis Corner as they make the way through the right-hander. A very lovely run there from Jamison Jr., but he'll know the fact that for all the run he takes out, given the length of the charge down towards Indianapolis, all that will be for naught. Meanwhile, Samuel Bernardi, after that spin much earlier on, still battling for spots overall, trying to fight for P20 and Melan Harris, and the Rockefeller Racing red driver will behind his Rockefeller Racing gold sister teammate as they head on down, and these two trying to work together to hunt down J.R. Davis, who is the best part of 7 seconds up the road from them, so therefore quite a bit of a gap to close on down if they want to try going hunting after P19. Never say never, to be fair, but it is a long way away as they make the way onwards here down the straight. We look from them back up to Ilya Speaker, the leader of the Prime class here for Rockefeller Racing Gold, and will right now Keith Wilfred just behind. These two have swapped places over recent laps, and they'll be looking to make it a 1-2 in the class with Adam J. Ballard P3 at the moment, who will, as he makes his way on down, make it a 1-2-3 for Rockefeller Racing the Prime class if everything finishes as it currently stands. And he's got James Logston in front of him. James Logston, after what was a very difficult start to this race, the Bear Poke driver now really on a mission to come back here. He's up to P9, sets the personal best of the race of 340.213, so therefore Logston not too far off of the pace in his own clear track air versus rivals. Indeed, if he had the toe, I think he would be doing 38, much like Dibble, Butler, Landry and Lowe at the front of the field. But it is a sign here of Logston really pushing on, but as he does so, meanwhile we do look from Logston back down to Samuel Bernardi, who chasing after Milan Harris here as they weave the way through the Porsche curves as Avon Dorsey into the pit lane. And well, that's a surprise and not a welcome one to be certain. I think Avon Dorsey may not have had enough fuel after the pit stop, and that might be what's caused the difference. But meanwhile, coming out of the forward chicanes, what Jesse Jefferson Jr. has gone round. He rejoins out of the gravel there, but the Photon Clang driver brings it back together, and well, not the moment he wants. He's lost third place down the AM class to Tim Chong. Can he get it back? We're 7.5 seconds behind, so he's got some work to do. But then again, we have seen mistakes from both drivers, and we couldn't put it past them, making another mistake, potentially given the pressure that's on the line here for that podium spot. But as we do see Jefferson Jr. making his way out of the Dunlop chicane and over the rise and down into the S's, from them to Ilya Speaker here, looking his way past what is there, John Croom, and with these guys are battling for P6, albeit the three sister team drivers from Rockefeller Racing, all right now negotiating and just trying get the best possible result for the respective teams, as we see the Rockefeller Racing Gold drivers of Speaker and Croom side by side there, and right now forming a little bit of a rolling formation with always Keith Wilfred tucked in behind. Albeit I think Wilfred here will try and just simply be the patient one sat in behind and not try to get involved at this point. But meanwhile, in terms of tactics to the front of the field, well, here is your top three, as we see Peter Lowe in the distance there making his way out of Mulsanne, Dibble ahead of Butler followed by Landry, and right now DNA Motorsports trying to make it a 1-2 here. The only driver they've got as a thorn in their side is the Sunday GT Turtles car of Landry as they make the way in towards Indianapolis, and you can see there it's now going to be Butler pulling onto the outside racing line, Landry up the inside. But I think right now Deere and Butler both cognizant of the fact it's not about this lap, it's not about the next one, it's about the final lap here where they'll need to make the move and try to make themselves as wide as possible, and therefore they'll be very happy to let Landry lead this race, let him burn some extra fuel in the car, perhaps put himself at risk of running low on fuel in that final lap, and therefore they can just siphon off of the rear of their rival as they make their way up towards the Porsche curves for the time being. But as they do so, meanwhile Kevin Manning in the toe versus Charles Halsey, and as they make their way through the right-hander of 13 up towards Mulsanne Corner very shortly. Well, these two trying to chase down Jesse Jamison Jr., who since his spin has really had to try and get the car back on pace. But Kevin Manning flying here by comparison, and we're trying to sight what is a P4 in the M class, P14 overall, albeit that'll be if he can find his way past Charles Halsey as well. But Manning goes very deep under brake in the speed, the overspeed catching him out there, and the Photon Clan driver just about getting it stopped in time. But I think there that will be a one that's going to send the adrenaline pumping even more, in the fact it could have been far, far worse, and well, thankfully it wasn't to be this time around, as he makes his way up towards Indianapolis, and behind Mark Senegal chasing down J.R. Davis, as we see the Sunday GT Turtles driver here on the offensive for P6 in the AM class versus Davis, and both of these drivers here having a difficult day so far as we ride and look back from the rear of the Rockefeller Racing red machine, and with this wonderful camera angle for the gearbox of the 208, giving you that idea of how close they run towards one another in excess of 160 miles an hour as they make their way in towards Indianapolis, and Indian Senegal backs off to a slight degree here, just provide some breathing room and make sure he does not provide any rear contact to Davis's car. But as they get back on the straight, be rest assured they're going to get very close as Davis goes very deep, has to pull the car back together before it goes to the tyre barrier, and a small mistake there from the Canadian driver. Let's Mark Senegal take the position for now, but Davis will be able to tuck back into the toe and go on the offensive. But meanwhile, as they make the way onwards towards what will be at the Porsche curves here. Behind them we do have Millen Harris and Samuel Bernardi still trying to close up as we see in the rear of the picture, and they are closing gradually here. Indeed, that time being whittled away as they head in towards the Porsche curves, and Bernardi, they're getting a very good run through the first part of the Porsche curves. Meanwhile, by comparison, Millen Harris not on form, and therefore the two of them getting much closer. I think they anticipated to get together straight away, but as they head in towards the left-hander of always turn number 27 in the into the Corvette curves. Meanwhile, we've had a bit of an incident there, I believe, for drivers coming to the pits. That's Charles Holsey into the pit lane, and the Rockefeller Racing green driver making its way on down. Well, that's a surprise in terms of, I think that's fuel has caught him out. Could we see more drivers get caught out by the fuel situation? I think many are feeling that, as meanwhile, we look back to your leaders here on lap number 11, and will the top three of Butler, Dibble and Landry, they continue to scythe back and forth in this little group, and meanwhile they are now the best part of 11.5 seconds clear of Peter Lowe and P4, a very lonely Peter Lowe at this point in time, and well for all three of them as they make their way down towards Mulsanne. And there's nothing between them right now, but rest assured on the final lap, that is where the gloves are going to come fully off. And given the amount of time we've seen pass so far, and that we are halfway round on what is this 11th lap, I think we're going to see a 13th lap. We're just about going to squeeze in lap number 13, and I wouldn't be surprised if a couple of drivers have only budgeted on the fuel tank for its 12 laps here, given the fact we've already seen quite a few have to come into the pits for a quick fuel pit stop. And well, if that's the case, could we see any of our leaders suddenly wilt on that final lap? Well, as they make the way down towards Indianapolis, nothing between the trio here as they head in towards the braking zone. It will be Butler and Dibble will hold on this time, with Landry falling back to P3. So I think deciding to use this one as a bit of a fuel-saving lap as they make the way through the left and into the right here, as number 5 driver comes on into the braking zone. And when we see there, Butler going a bit deep, collects the car back together just in time and prevents a bit of over-rotation on the car, which would let the rear go complete loose and lead to a spin. But it's going to be Butler and Dibble here who share the same real estate as they make the way up towards the Porsche curve. Side by side they go, but I think Dibble here backing off the throttle slightly, just acting as cover for that inside line in case Landry comes on strong, but no sign of the Canadian looking for the move here. Indeed, waiting very patiently and getting ready to go on the offensive once again in due course. But as they make the way through the double left here, Landry getting very close as they all start to back onto one another. Butler, of course, controlling the pace and coming in towards turn number 27. Well, nobody wants to run wide here as Landry almost running wide on that exit curve. So long as you have two wheels in the exit curve, it's okay. And as they make their way in towards the forward chicanes here, all three drivers heading onto the brakes. Nobody pulls into the pits. They have got what is 4 minutes left on the clock, and well, they are going to get a 13th lap in given this pace right now as they go on to what is lap number 12 here, charging the way across the line. And as they go up towards the next braking zone, we're going in towards the corners here. We look from them to a bit further back, and this is Mark Senegal versus Jay Davis and also Samuel Bernardi. So Sunday GT Turtles driver being caught up to by them. Millen Harris is already clear of the trio, and Harris is a bit further up the road by 6/10. Peter Lowe's into the pits, by the way, ladies and gents. We can confirm that Peter Lowe has not had enough fuel to go to the end on this race, and that's a very sad moment. That will mean that Peter Lowe, presuming there's no drama for any other driver, Jason Landry now is on course to potentially take the Central Cup in the Pro class. We'll have to see whether that is what plays out in the end. But Peter Lowe will falling with only 2 laps to go. He'll be back out on circuit to finish the race, there's no doubt about it, as he re-emerges in the pit lane very shortly in P10 or P11. But the damage has been done, and the fuel not being in the car is what is going to hurt him the most. But meanwhile, as we look back here to the top three, now all three wide for a brief moment as they make their way down Mulsanne. They're only a third of the way down here, but I get the feeling the gloves are starting to come off here. Perhaps they're starting to feel as though this is the final lap, or if they check their clocks, they may realise it's not quite the final lap. They're not quite there yet, but Landry are now trying to take a lead of this race as they make the way down towards the 2/3 of the waypoint, and as they do so, Landry holding on to that lead position here as they get ready to go into the kink. We're coming into the right-hander here. Landry ahead of Dibble with Butler on the outside on the right of your picture, and still time to go on this straight, and well, you can feel the tension. It is building. It could be cut with a knife here as they head down towards the braking zone. Meanwhile, we do look back briefly to Samuel Bernardi versus what is there, Mark Senegal into the braking zone for Dunlop chicane they go, and as they do so, well, it's going to be Mark Senegal who loses the rear of the car there. The car gets caught out, but meanwhile, we have to look back to our leaders as it is Landry and also Butler. Gloves are off between the two of them as they make their way out of the corner, and as they do, nothing between them this time in terms of the fighting, but definitely Landry now eager to hold his position, but Mark Senegal getting it wrong at the Dunlop chicane there, and well, it's going to be a difficult one for him to recover from. We stay with the leaders once again, ladies and gentlemen, as they make the way down towards the Indianapolis corner. And on the charge here, well, right now, Landry may be leading in this group. As we ride on board and look back from the rear of his car, you see that Butler coming on full force as they get ready to bow on the brakes here into Indianapolis. Side by side they go in. It's going to be Landry on the outside, Butler on the inside. Landry turns in. There's contact between the two of them. A very odd bit of contact there, and Landry being turned sideways onto the gravel. I think there might have been a small element of net code involved in that contact, but the Sunday GT Turtles driver coming off worse aware and being pushed to 5 seconds down of the Ballon Dibble right on the closing stage of this race, albeit there will be one more lap after this. But what a moment there, and that is a huge upset for the Sunday GT Turtles driver as Butler now with a wounded car. We'll have to see if he can carry on here or whether he may have to forfeit the lead and, well, tuck in behind Dibble in the end. But I think right now that car going on comfortably, but as they make the way up towards what is turns 25 and 26 very shortly coming through the Porsche curves here. Well, I don't think there was any malice meant there. I think they were intending to go racing, perhaps a bit of a door bump between the two of them, but very different, as in fact Landry's being allowed to catch back up to this group. The gap's already halved, and I think they mutually agreed to restart this race between them as they head in towards what will be the Ford chicanes, because Landry already now within 1.7 seconds. I think they've backed off the pace here, wondering what's happened. I think great sportsmanship's been shown here, because it is going to be the battle for the win. 3 wide part 2 as they make their way through the final couple of corners, and the checker flag's not waving, ladies and gentlemen. The clock strikes 45 minutes. We will have a 13th lap here. I think in fact they may have been trying to back the pace off to only make it 12 laps. We go on to lap number 13, and have they got enough fuel to get to the end? That is now going to be the challenge here for this top 3 as they make their way up towards turns 2 and 3. As they come from the left into right, well, Landry meanwhile immediately back onto this, and I think Landry may have already thought about the fact there's going to be a 13th lap. I don't think he's been caught out by this, but I wonder if DNA Motorsports may have, given the fact the pace was backed up quite significantly there. Again, it was either sportsmanship due to the contact with Landry, or alternatively they were trying to get the race to end on lap number 12, but they are going now for number 13, and well, who else potentially falls short here on fuel? We're now heading into unknown territory. We've just snuck in that 13th lap. If they had not backed off the pace, we would have got it in by 10 seconds. So that's how close we've been running to that 13th lap all day today. And as they make their way down Mulsanne, meanwhile, contact with the wall there for Bernardi. Samuel Bernardi for Rockefeller Racing at red after moving up to P16. With Mark Senegal's spin earlier on at the Dunlop chicane. Right now trying to make a bit more progress, and they're running wide. It was Milan Harris. And as Harris picked up a slowdown for his misdemeanor there, it doesn't look to be. I think, in fact, he might have just picked up a 1x instant warning. And there for Samuel Bernardi just tucking in once again here as they make their way onto their own final lap of the day. But heading on down, and well, we go back to the closest battle on circuit, ladies and gentlemen. It is the battle for the win between the top 3. And as they make their way on down Mulsanne, pleased to say we do have our helicopter flying over and following them on down here as they make their way on through it. Jason Landry still 6 tenths behind at the moment as they make their way into the Mulsanne corner, and will Butler and Dibble nose the tail as close as they dare to dream to be. And well, as they head in towards the braking zone here, it is going to be those two with Jason Landry half a second back and not showing any signs of wanting to get involved immediately in this fight. I think playing the patience game, but as they come through the right-hander now, this is where they will start to close up. Meanwhile, a bit further back, as we look from them to Ilya Speaker, your pro-am leader, he's got Keith Wilfred behind his Rockefeller Racing teammate, as they head down towards what is Mulsanne Corner themselves, and it is the Rockefeller Racing Gold driver ahead of the Rockefeller Racing Red driver, James Logston, closing up, albeit the pro driver there looking to pick his way on through to go hunting after John Kroom for 5th place in the pro class. But meanwhile, we look back to your leaders here as it's Dibble who's looking around the outside of Butler to the inside of Indianapolis. He's going to win. Side by side they go through the corner, and as they do, well, now it's going to be side by side in towards Arnage. Which one of them is going to come out leading? Butler's going to be on the inside there, Dibble on the outside turning on in, and they get on the power, running wide, both of them go wide, and as they do, DNA Motorsports make it synchronous. He spins to the wall, and I think both drivers there pushing one another on, and both going wide, and in a crazy turn of events, Jason Landry leads with only a third of a lap to go, as the Sunday GT Turtles driver charges away now. Well, it's drama as much as you dare to dream that could ever happen, ladies and gentlemen. We thought one of them might be going when Butler went a bit wide and ran off the curb, but we've also Dibble falling foul at the end. It's going to be DNA Motorsports who are denied a 1-2 once again. But as they make the way on through the Porsche curves here, we look from them back to James Logston. And Logston here chasing after Ilya Speaker at the moment. He's picked his way on past Wilfred already, but I think it's going to be tucking in here for Speaker to trying to help out Chrome. But from then we must look back to your leader, ladies and gentlemen, for as he makes his way on through the last couple of corners, the checker flag is going to await him. And in a crazy turn of events on this final lap, it is Jason Landry who takes victory at Le Mans for Sunday GT Turtles. He crosses the line, your winner, ahead of Tanner Dibble P2 and in Jordan Butler P3. And then it will be the best part of 10 seconds before we do see Logan McKenzie come on through on his return for a P4 finish for Alpha Touring Change Gold. 7 seconds clear in the end of John Chrome, who comes on through to hold on to P5 in the end, ahead of teammate and prime winner Ilya Speaker, who finishes P6 for Rockefeller Racing Gold. And then it will be James Logston and Keith Wilfred, with Keith Wilfred your run-up in the prime class ahead of MJ Ballard, who completes the run to make it a 1-2-3 on the prime podium for Rockefeller Racing. And behind him, look at this man, it's Ian Hennebury from Bear Pope Zero, who brings it on home to take the AM class win here. P10 over his first top 10 of the season overall. A brilliant drive there from the Bear Pope Zero driver ahead of Peter Lowe P11 with the heartbreak with the fuel at the end of lap number 11. And well, you've got to feel for him there, the irony of his finishing position being the same as the number of laps the car had been budgeted for. And then James Kingsbury will come on through very shortly to return to the AM podium. It's been some time since we've seen him there, but the 238 driver will bring it on home and take the run-up spot on the AM podium. P12 overall ahead of Tim Chong, who completes the AM podium P13. We've still got more drivers to come, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, give everybody a round of applause. They make the way on through. They all deserve it for the hard effort today. Indeed, getting to the checker flag at Le Mans is an achievement in itself. And Samuel Bernardi comes out of the final corner for Rockefeller Racing Red to take the 4th place position on the AM class P14 overall ahead of Milan Harris. Not to be Bernardi's day today, with that early incident costing him very dear. Jay Davis takes P16 there in the overall category, P5 in the AM class ahead of Avon Dorsey, and then it will be Kevin Manny, the Photon Clan driver, who was looking strong early on, but it didn't go his way today. P18 at the end, with Mark Senegal shortly coming on through in a very wounded Sunday GT Turtles car to take P19 after that late spin at the Dunlop chicane, costing him the most of his free spins today, and Charles Halsey completing the finishing positions on the lead lap P20 as the Rockefeller Racing Green driver crosses the line there in the 100 and not quite able to replicate his heroics of last time out the Hockenheim ring. But still, ladies and gentlemen, what a race from start to finish. Indeed, there were battles aplenty. There was a bit of drama, including drama here between Bernardi and what looks to be Mark Senegal, as they've had a bit of a coming together over the rise out of the Dunlop chicane. But as we're going to say, there were battles aplenty, drama in terms of strategy and also on circuit, and a perfect recipe for all that is Le Mans. And indeed, it absolutely delivered, with the finest recipe being delivered on your screen today. But with that, let's take a look at those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. And as we can see, Jason Landry taking the win for Sunday GT Turtles in the end by 2.7 seconds over DNA Motorsports, 2-3 of what was Tanner Dibble and Jordan Butler. But what a way for it to end on the final lap with that double spin for DNA Motorsports coming out of Arnage and Jason Landry bringing on home a win that I think for him might have been unexpected. I think he might have thought that after what happened at Indianapolis on the preceding lap, it was all not to be. But then suddenly it was truly on, and what a way to conclude the Central Cup in style. Tanner Dibble at P2 ahead of Jordan Butler, his teammate, and then Logan McKenzie at P4 for Alpha Touring Change Gold. And I think the Alpha Touring Change driver on his return to the grid today will be very happy with that fourth place finish. And whilst it was a bit of a lonely race for him, the number 4 driver bringing on home his door number there, and very pleased to do so. John Kroom at P5 and the number 45 for Rockefeller Racing Gold ahead of teammate Ilya Speaker, who makes it another win in the Pro-Am class, and an absolutely deserved win today for the Rockefeller Racing Gold driver, holding off James Logston to the line for Bear Pope P7. And again, it's not been a very successful Central Cup for James Logston. The fact that the pace hasn't been quite there compared to his rivals inside the top 5, and he'll be hoping for more in the Southern Cup, but still brings the car on home in the top 10 finish ahead of Keith Wilfred and Adam J. Ballard for Rockefeller Racing Green and Rockefeller Racing Red, respectively. And with that, Keith Wilfred, your runner-up in the Pro-Am class day, and Adam J. Ballard completing the Pro-Am podium. That was Rockefeller Racing at 1, 2, 3 of Speaker, Wilfred and Ballard. Meanwhile, the top 10 being rounded off there in P10 by Ian Henry, the AM winner for Bear Pope Zero, his first top 10 of the season. He'll be absolutely pleased with that, and also another win to add to his belt with Peter Lowe there. Best SP 11 for Bear Pope Zero, and heartbreak for the number 11 driver in the end by running low on fuel on lap number 11. It wasn't to be today, and not to be. What we do believe is the Central Cup. Indeed, it won't be going Peter Lowe's way, even though he was the leader today, given that low finishing position compared to Jason Landry. James Kingsbury at P12 for Flavour Station Racing, your runner-up in the AM class there. Return to podium for the 238 driver, an absolutely brilliant drive there ahead of Slipstream Sloths, Tim Chong in the end by only 2 seconds, who completed the AM podium of Hennebury, Kingsbury and Chong. And then we can see Samuel Bernardi at P14 for Rockefeller Racing at Red, and literally at level with Milan Harris at the finish line, who completed the top 15. And then to round off the top 20, it was J.R. Davies, head of Avon Dorsey, Kevin Manning, Mark Senegal, and Charles Halsey. Charles Halsey was your last lead lap finisher in P20 for Rockefeller Racing Green, and then behind a lap down, Jesse Jamison Jr. at the checkered flag for Photan Clan, and the same for Glenn at Bratton P22, the privateer, ahead of Nick Yakubov for Slipstream Sloths. And we also saw the retirements of the following drivers: John Lauzon for Alpha Touring Change Silver, Jet Gertson for Reverse Grid Racing, Aaron Law, the privateer, after the contact between Gertson and Law on what was lap number 4, and Francois Schink not able to make it to the grid, unfortunately, for Alpha Touring Change Silver. And as all 4 of the drivers of Lauzon, Gertson, Law and Schink did not finish the race within 5 laps of the leader, they will be classified as non-finishers for this round. Now we come on to the individual class finishing positions. And as we can see, Jason Landry in the Pro class there on top form today for Sunday GT Turtles, ahead of DNA Motorsports is Tanner Dibble and Jordan Butler. That's your podium. Congratulations to the trio there. It was an absolute nail-biter of a conclusion. Ahead of Logan McKenzie, P4 for Alpha Touring Change Gold, and John Krim to complete the top 5 there for Rockefeller Racing Gold. Bear Pope's James Logston at P6 there, ahead of Bear Pope Zero's Peter Lowe, and then at Milan Harris completing the finishers of the race, P8 for Rockefeller Racing Gold, ahead of the retirees of Jake Gertson, Aaron Lahr and Francois Schink for Reverse Grid Racing, the privateer outfit, and Alpha Touring Change Silver, respectively. We'll then come onto the Prime class, and as we can see here on top, Ilya Speaker there, another win indeed, picking up a huge string of wins, and that's going to make his overall Drivers' Championship campaign highly profitable now, in terms of the fact that he's on course for that championship crown in the final 4 rounds of the season, should he carry up the form to a relative extent. But the Rockefeller Racing Gold drivers taking it 1 race at a time and finishing by 1 second clear of Keith Wilfred for Rockefeller Racing at Red today, and a further 15 seconds to Adam J. Ballard for Rockefeller Racing Green, making it a 1-2-3 for Rockefeller Racing. The Rockefeller Racing trend continues, with P4 going to Avon Dorsey for the green outfit, and Charles Halsey, his teammate, P5, and then John Lauzon, the sole retiree in the class for Alpha Touring Change Silver, only completing it was the best part of 6 laps in the end, and therefore classified as non-finisher. And then come on to the AM class, last but not least, and as we can see here, Ian Hennebury taking the win for Bear Pope Zero by 31.5 seconds over James Kingsbury. Indeed, Ian Hennebury absolutely now tight today in terms of his performance, consistency being key, and delivering on that. James Kingsbury at P2 there for Flavour Station Racing, and Tim Chong just further behind by 2 seconds to round off the podium for Slipstream Sloths. Samuel Bernardi at P4. The Rockefeller Racing Red driver will be a little bit upset he didn't quite get on the podium today. Indeed, would have appreciated the points, but at the same time, we'll know he is the favourite in the championship, and he will have a small impact to his championship campaign in terms of advantage, but not too significant of a one. Head of J.R. Davis, Rockefeller Racing Red, his teammate, and then Kevin Manning at P6 there for Photon Clan. Just missed out on the podium, and indeed missed out on the top 5, but at the same time, known there's plenty in store for today, and he'll look to try and take the positives from today forward into the Southern Cup. Mark Senegal, P7 in what was not to be his day today for Sunday GT Turtles, being caught out multiple times and then finishing a lap down there. Jesse Jameson Jr., Glenn Bratton and Nick Yakubov to complete the AM standings. But great to see all of our AM drivers making it to the checkered flag. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, those are all of our race results, and it does mean now, well, of course, with the conclusion of today's racing, we can conclude the Central Cup, and the results are in, and we can confirm it is as follows. Your championship standings of the Central Cup after 4 rounds of racing from round number 5 through to round number 8, starting with the Pro class. Jason Landry in the end taking the Central Cup crown on 187 points, with the win giving the impetus to move ahead of Peter Lowe, whose misfortune by comparison dropped him down, and John Kroom sliding into P2 then 175 points ahead of Peter Lowe based only on result countback. That was your top 3 ahead of Jordan Butler and Tanner Dibble, the DNA Motorsports drivers there, P4, P5 in the end, but 9 their time is to come in the Southern Cup, I'm sure. And then at Milan Harris, James Logston, Aaron Lahr, Logan McKenzie and Jake Gertson completing the standings there. We then come on to the Pro-Am class. And as we can see, Ilya Speaker taking another win today, and with it boosting his advantage at the top of the standings up to 18 points over Keith Wilfred. And Ilya Speaker comfortably your crown winner on there of the Central Cup, with Keith Wilfred a deserved runner-up and Avon Dorsey finishing third ahead of Charles Holsey, with John Lauzon at P5 there with the misfortunes hitting him hard and preventing him from trying to make a proper campaign for the Central Cup. But still, we look forward to seeing him back on form in the Southern Cup. And then Lee Porter, Jermaine Warren, Adam J. Ballard and Mike Young completing the standings. And then lastly, we come onto the AM class, and here we can see Samuel Bernardi, your winner on 134 points. Ahead of Kevin Manning by the best part of what was there, 23 points, and Samuel Bernardi, clear winner today, albeit that P4 finishing in, seeing the gap between himself and Manning slightly brought down, but at the same time, I do believe for Samuel Bernardi, he won't be too upset by that because he has taken the trophy he was hunting down. Outside the top 2, Tim Chong at P3 then, 100 points, just sneaking ahead of Glenn Bratton at the finish, with Ian Henry at P5 with that winning class today, moving into the top 5 right at the death of the Cup, ahead of Jay Davies and then Mark Senegal P7, James Kingsbury P8, Roger Ganesh P9, and Jesse Jameson Jr. completing the top 10, with Nick Yakubov there outside the top 10 by only 3 points in the end, versus Jameson Jr. It couldn't have been closer. But with that, just to reiterate, ladies and gentlemen, your Cup Championship winners for the Central Cup, and congratulations to them. Firstly, in the Pro class, the number 5 from Sunday GT Turtles of Jason Landry. And then in the 106 of the Pro-Am class, Ilya Speaker of Rockefeller Racing Gold. And then for Rockefeller Racing Red in the AM class, Samuel Bernardi in the 212. Congratulations to all 3 of our drivers, and they will receive the reward of what will be $5 for taking the Cup crown. And of course, the pressure will be on them now to try and make it a successive Cup when they do enter the Southern Cup for the final 4 rounds of the season. But congratulations to them, and of course now they've got to try and keep the standard high as we also look to wind down the Drivers' Championship overall with the 4 rounds that are to come. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it does mean all of our racing is over today, and it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show and perhaps you want to know more about the Middle of the Pack Racing League community, perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to be on the grid for a future instalment of the Middle of the Pack Racing League, particularly with 2024 on the horizon, only a couple of months away, and we can tell you plans are already getting underway for the 2024 series and all that's to come, then why not check out first the official MPRL Discord that's available using the invite link on screen there. Alternatively, if you don't want to go to the Discord just yet, perhaps you're a little bit shy and just want to follow us on social media, then the best place to go to is our official Twitter at twitter.com/MOP Racing. We can stay up to date with all the latest league information, but on top of that as well, all the latest information regarding the trials and tribulations and the successes and pitfalls of the official, I should say, Middle of the Pack Racing esports teams. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, of course, it is now time for the mid-season break, the second of the 2 of them, and we will be back for round number 9 to kick off the Southern Cup, presenting it to you as if it were live on Saturday, the 18th of November 2023. Save the date in your calendar. We'll be back to our usual Saturday slot, and we do apologise for having to shift things around due to scheduling concerns, but we will be back on our Saturday slot to kick it all off at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, and with its twists and turns playing host to our drivers on what will be the preceding Wednesday of Wednesday, the 15th of November. Be there on the Saturday to see it as if it were live and see who can come out on top on the circuit that arguably is one of the hardest to overtaker in the world. But until then, we've been Middle of the Pack Racing League. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, as always, remember to stay on track. Good night.